Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dimes, the college basketball podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Jamie Shaw. Jamie, how are you feeling today, December 10th?
Matthew, everything's good, man. Everything's good. We're knee deep in basketball season, and it's been a great year so far. So, yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, I can't complain. We're not going to talk about them extensively here, but I did watch the doubleheader they had in Madison Square Garden last night. BYU wins on a game winner against Clemson 67-64, and then UConn outlasts Florida 77-73. Two really, really good games. I feel like we've had a lot of blowouts at times this year. These two games
hmm
completely delivered on what I was hoping we'd get from them. So, yeah, I just want to start real quick giving them a shout out. Fun games last night in MSG.
No, for sure. And I think that we saw. I think there's without question. I think that isn't even a discussion as AJ Dibansta through the
God,
early part of the season being the most talented player in college basketball, able to do things that just nobody else in the game's able to do, capable of doing. I don't even think it's a discussion so far. 10 games in, 9 games in, whatever we are, that he is the most talented player in the game.
he's awesome, and he was awesome last night, leading the comeback, everything like that. And I do want to give a shout out to Xavier Lee for Florida. He'd been getting killed from Florida fans and everybody in terms of his slow start. He's gotten better, I think, over the past couple games. So I did want to
Mhm.
give him a shout out as well for Florida as they figure it out. You're still not able to get over that hump and win that game, but UConn's obviously very, very good, as we know as well.
Yeah, UConn at full steam. UConn with everybody involved. Terrace Reed mainly is
Yeah.
they have a chance to win a national championship. They're one of the most talented teams in the country. They can hit you from all 5 spots. The depth showing up a little bit for them as well. Braylon Mullins is coming back. Terrace Reed getting back in the mix and all that. So when they're at full speed, they are one of the very best teams in college basketball in the hunt for a national championship.
Yeah, today we're gonna go through our updated picks to win the conferences, our Player of the Year race update. It's been a couple weeks here, so I want to reset things as we move into the heart of December and we approach conference play. I mean, Big Ten has already started conference play, so we'll get into all that. But first, let's talk about the most impressive teams so far. To me, this was really interesting. I think this is a good reset, like I said, for where we are in this season. But there's a couple teams I think we should talk about, and I'm not going to bury the lead here. I think Michigan is the first in terms of teams that have just absolutely performed at an incredible level the past 3 weeks. Because I remember watching them November 11th against Wake Forest and be like, Wake Forest they've got them. It's a tie game. It go to overtime. They end up winning it. Since really that game against TCU November 14th, since then they have absolutely pillaged everybody they've played. Won every game by 25 plus. Obviously, they beat Gonzaga by 40, Auburn by 30, San Diego State by 40, Villanova last night by 28. So, what stands out to you in terms of this Michigan team and what Dusty May has going on in terms of just how well they're playing?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the early struggles, Wake Forest and TCU. I wouldn't necessarily call them struggles because what we're seeing now from this
Yeah.
Wake Forest and TCU team is that they're better possibly than we thought they were. With TCU with the win over Florida, and then you have Wake Forest kind of playing really good basketball. Juke Harris, ACC Player of the Year candidate, all that stuff with them. So looking back at it, and then what they were able to start doing at the players era against the high major opponents and everything. I mean, 30 against Auburn, who was AP ranked, and then
Yeah.
40 against Gonzaga, who was also AP ranked, back to back 30 plus point outings, and then you follow that up with 40 at Rutgers, 28 with Villanova. They're having 6 guys right now averaging 9 or more points per game. They're having 9 guys in the rotation playing 13 or more minutes per game. They're getting a little bit from everybody. They have depth. The guards are stepping up, and everybody's kind of figuring out the roles of what they have. But I think without question, especially over this last month or so, Michigan has unequivocally been the most impressive team in college basketball.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers, obviously winning by 40 is awesome, but to hold Gonzaga to 61 points, to hold Villanova to 61 points, They're currently the number one defense on Ken Palm. They are number one in 2-point percentage defense. Like this is what we talked about going into the year in terms of this front court and the way that they can rotate Johnson and Mara and Yaxel. Like the way that they are able to always have rim presence, the way they're always able to,
Mhm.
and then obviously I think their guards have done a much better job than I anticipated in terms of getting into people and forcing turnovers as well. So uh, yeah, Michigan's defense has been absolutely the storyline that it hasn't surprised me, but I think that's where if you're Dusty May taking this team from where we said going into the year they were going to be, really good. Like I think I had them as a Final Four team to now being like this team that is killing everybody. It starts on the defensive end and it starts with that front court, which has been absolutely incredible. So I that's where I start with this team.
Yeah, for sure. Looking through this topic, there were two teams that I wrote down: Michigan being one, the other one being Iowa State. What
Yep.
TJ Otzelberger's been able to do at Iowa State, I mean, to go into Purdue and come out with a
Yeah.
20-plus point win, that says something about it. That's probably the most impressive win of the season so far in college basketball, going into Purdue and winning by 20 plus. You have an Iowa State team that's averaging 94.6 points per game, which is eighth in Division One. They're knocking down 35.1 field goals per game, which is second across Division One. 40 points over Syracuse, 18 over Creighton. They have a win over St. John's, and they did some of this stuff too without Taman Lipsey, their senior leader. Next man up mentality. TJ Otzelberger has been known as a defensive minded coach, as a coach who really prides himself on the physicality and toughness on the defensive end of the floor. You have guys like Taman Lipsey who really heat up the ball, aggressive defensively at the point of attack, but they're scoring the basketball this year. Again, 94 points per game. As a team, they're top 10 in scoring, top 10 in field goals made in NCAA basketball. And so far, early on, 9-0 start for them. Through those 9 games, they have been one of the most impressive teams in college basketball for me.
Yeah, they were also on this list. I mean, that game against Purdue was I remember I watched the first half kind of play out and I was like, okay, Iowa State seems like they're gaining control of this game, but they weren't in control. I think at halftime they were up 5 or 3.
Yeah.
Um that second half surge that they had, I was so impressed by the composure on the road to just kind of take Purdue out of everything that they wanted to do, take Braden Smith out of everything that he wanted. I mean, Braden Smith ends the game with 6 turnovers. I don't know how often he ends the game with 6 turnovers. It's absurd. So this is why going into the year, a lot of people I think looked at the lack of replacements for their, departures last year, and I completely understood that. I think I still had them top 4 in the Big 12 just off of Lipsey, Jefferson, Momcilovic as a big 3 nowadays. And I know they've had other players contribute, but just having those 3 as your core and having TJ as your coach, they're going to be a good defensive team. And then now with those 3 especially, their offense has been on a level that frankly we haven't really seen under TJ, right? Like 2 years ago they were 52nd in offense, first in defense. This year they're 6th in offense and second in defense on Ken
Yeah.
Palm. Like this is a level offensively we have not seen Iowa State hit.
Yeah, no doubt. And they have multiple guys that can get you, lead the team in scoring and all that stuff. It's just a really, really good, really impressive team so far through the early part. But those are there's obviously other people, Michigan State, Duke, and all that stuff. But those
Yeah.
two teams are the two that have been the most impressive to me so far early in the season.
Yeah, let's go on to one underrated team each here. I have one written down. I have another one where I could go if we wanted, but what do you have for your underrated team?
Nebraska.
I
Nebraska
like
for
it.
me is a very underrated team and a team that I'm very intrigued by. You're sitting there looking at their 9-0 start. They have high major wins over Creighton, Kansas State, and Oklahoma. They have a big one tonight, Wisconsin. So that'll be very interesting to see how that one plays out because Wisconsin's a good team as well
Yep.
with that. But, they returned Ring Mast coming back from injury this past year. He's averaging 18, 6, and 3, the big man. And then you have Price Sanford, who came over from Iowa, who's averaging 16, 5, and 2. Those two give them a two-man punch who can have the ball in their hands and create offense. You can line both Rink and Price up at different locations. You can have Price possibly initiate, put rank at the mid post, high post, low block stuff, and you can run your offense to them, and they can both act as offensive hubs, making decisions with the ball in their hand, which makes them super unique. As a team, they're knocking down 11.1 threes per game, and they're also making 61.3% of their 2-point shots this season, while scoring 83 points total as a team. They're able to get you from multiple spots. They're able to efficiently score the basketball, and their offense is looking pretty smooth right now. So through the first 9 games, 9-0 Nebraska, looking like a top 25 team. I believe I have them 17 or 18 in my top 25 to start the week this week. Big one tonight against Wisconsin, so I think we'll get a little bit more understanding as to what they are as a team. But I think right now they're a very underrated looking team with multiple players that can hit you while scoring the ball, moving it around, and very fluid looking.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm going with Virginia here. I 9-1 start. I know they haven't played anyone super tough yet, but I go back to that win over Texas, which was on December 3rd. Beat Texas by 19 on the road. And having watched that game, they followed that up with a win over Dayton on a neutral site. So they have a win over Northwestern on a neutral. Their one loss is to Butler this year by 7. But watching Ryan Odom's team offensively, it's weird watching a Virginia team with this much like pop to it, this much juice to it, and it's not just one guy. I mean, Tyster Ritter's been really good. Malik Thomas has been really good. Jakari White has been awesome to watch in terms of a score. Like this is what I had envisioned going into the year, and I don't have my ACC predictions up here. I had them 6, so probably too low, but I remember being fairly bullish on what he had, and obviously Ryan Odom as a coach, we know what he can do. So they're 13th in offense currently in the country. They're 4th in offensive rebounding percentage, and they're 14th in three-point percentage. So typically that is a good recipe, and I think they have the talent. Again, going back to that Texas game, just they diced them up, and they've scored 80 plus in all but one game this year. So I believe in what they're doing offensively. So Virginia is my underrated team so far
Yeah,
this
very
year.
very much like Virginia. I'm gonna be interested to see what they look like at the top end of that ACC, which is shaping out. You have the Duke, UNC, um, Louisville, Virginia, kind of being the 4 um, that are getting it going there. Tyster Ritter, a good one. Chance Mallory is another one that's been really good, kind of finding his spot within the flow of the offense. Dallin Hall's the leader, the senior leader, ball in hand guy that makes decisions, and Ja'Cory Wright had a big one in the last game they played as well. Johan Grunlich making plays. I mean, they have a deep team that can hit you from a lot of different spots on the floor. And they're somewhat young too. They have a good mix of youth and
Yeah.
age as well. But that Virginia team is a fascinating one that's going to watch moving forward.
Yeah. Let's revisit our picks and let's rehash, I guess, make some picks on this on the conference champions across the country.
Yeah, going
We'll
through
go.
these, man, a couple of them were easy and a couple of them are very difficult.
Well, so what was the toughest one? Let's
The Big
start there.
12.
The Big 12, yes,
The
that is
Big
the
12.
toughest one.
You got to think Iowa State possibly. Arizona looks super interesting, and I
Yep.
mean, then you also have Houston there. Um, Kansas with Peterson, it looks like a different team.
BYU.
BYU, if they have everybody in there too. So I mean, it's Iowa State would be the de facto one I land on, but man, Arizona or Houston, it wouldn't surprise me if Houston can get it together and figure it out. Then Arizona, I mean, still, they went to UConn and beat UConn and playing some really good basketball, hitting you from a lot of different spots there on the floor as well. So the Big 12 was a very difficult one to land on as to who it could be because you're sitting there, you're looking at, okay, we just talked about Iowa State being the most impressive team so far. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, heck, Arizona. Okay. Oh, well, heck, you know,
I mean,
Houston played in the
Arizona's
game.
AP
Oh
number one
gosh,
right now.
BYU. We just talked about BYU and how great they looked last night.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my god. So how do we? Yeah, the Big 12 is going to be a bloodbath at the top.
Yeah, it's going to be absurd. And even with Houston's loss to Tennessee, which was a very close game there, like we're still looking at 8-1. And we know how good they are. I think I lean. I mean, again, based off of what we've already talked about with Iowa State, like how impressive they've been. That win over Purdue holds so much weight in my in my mind right now. Like Houston doesn't have
Arizona
a
went to
game.
UConn.
Arizona does have one like that.
I
Houston
mean, they didn't
doesn't
have Terrace Reed, but they went to
fully have.
UConn and win.
Yeah, so that win over Auburn for Houston was obviously big, but I'm not super high on Auburn or bullish on
I'm the
Auburn,
same.
but
I'm not either.
like that's their only like top 50 win to this point. So like if we're comparing resumes, that's Iowa State or Arizona. If we're just, I still can't get over. I think Houston, and I said this when we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Houston last year, right, loses 3 games in the non-conference. They go in conference play. They are amazing. Like I do think Houston has a lot of upside here, especially with these freshmen that. Arizona has a lot of freshmen as well, and will continue to get better. But Houston, with Kelvin Sampson, with the way that they play, the defense, gets better every single week in conference play. It seems like, and then I just believe in Flemings and Sinak and these guys being a lot better in February than they are right now. Um, I'll go out on a limb and I'll stick with Houston, my preseason pick to win the conference here. I think they're going to continue to get better, especially defensively. They're 6th in the country. That feels low. I'm sure that's the lowest they've been under Sampson in quite some time, but. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with Houston here, even though I
I'm with
understand
you.
the
I
resume.
mean, I think you hit on major points. I think Houston has as much upside as any team in the country. It's just they got to figure each other out. They got to figure out, the feel for one another because they have 3 guards that can create offense, that can initiate offense and get it done and elevate the floor of a team. They have an unbelievable defensive big with JoJo Tugler. You have Chris Sinak, who's one of the better rebounders in the league. It's just the depth coming up, and then everybody figuring out their roles on the team. Their upside with those 3 guards, especially, is as high as any team in the country. You just got to figure it out. So yeah, I don't think you're crazy for Houston. That's why I mentioned them in the same
Yeah,
conversation as both Iowa State and Arizona. But just the way that Iowa State's playing right now, I got to land on them. And if it's not them, then Arizona is.
yeah,
They still have some untapped stuff there too when it comes to,
yeah.
like you said, the freshmen and everything.
The second toughest one in my head is the SEC, and
But for a completely different reason.
it's not the same reason
Nobody
that the
wants it.
big. I was gonna say somebody take the SEC crown right now because I
Yeah,
couldn't tell you who the best team is. I know who I'm gonna pick, and I'm gonna pick Alabama.
me too.
And I think through the past couple weeks, I've been very headstrong on that. Even watching them, lose a couple games and then on conference, I still think they are the best team. And do I think they're a perfect team? God, no. But I think in the SEC right now, you look across the standings and you look across just all these teams. Vanderbilt's undefeated, but I think Alabama is just better. And when I watch them, I still feel like maybe they're not a Final Four team this year. Maybe they are, but I just feel like they have enough to them. And LeBaron Philon has been absolutely fantastic. And we've talked about this team a couple times before, but I think they have enough, and I think they know what they are. Um, as opposed to a lot of teams in the SEC don't really know what they are right now. Not to point fingers at any team in particular that is upset at their coach, but I think Alabama has good identity right now. I'm gonna stick with them.
No, for sure. Alabama was the choice for me as well, and it's one of those things as to you just nobody wants it. I have more questions right now about the SEC, and I think the Big Ten has surpassed the SEC as the best conference in the country, and I'm sure we'll get to the Big Ten here in a minute. But just looking through top to bottom, I mean, the SEC is just kind of we haven't seen a fully healthy Kentucky yet. I think that team still has upside as they figure some things out. With as bad as it's been so far. Um, you know, Auburn, I'm not really super sold on them. Tennessee still has some upside when they figure some things out as well. But I mean, they've taken some losses
Yeah,
coming up here,
3
but
in
they
a
still
row.
have that win over Houston. Um, it's Alabama. They're just now getting back Jalil Bethea. It seems like they found something really good with freshman Amari Allen coming into the mix. LeBaron Philon's been the best player in the league. Aiden
Hmm.
Holloway's had his best season in college yet, playing some really good basketball. Can they figure out the front court to be enough to make the run? That'll be interesting to keep watching with Aiden Sherrill and Taylor Bowen and Keaton Bristow and how they sort that out. I think 1 through 4 adding Taylor Bol Boeing into that 1 through 4 and the rotation that they have
Yeah.
with Bethea, Philon, Aiden Holloway, Amari Allen. I think they're as good as, I mean, they're in the conversation with anybody in the country possibly. Can they solidify that 5 spot? And what does it look like as they continue to move forward? I think Alabama is easily the SEC's top team right now. And I don't think any other team has really done enough yet to even press them to be in the conversation at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And
The other three,
I'll tell you
go ahead.
this. I will tell you this because you mentioned this as well. Byington, buy
Yes.
stock now in Mark Byington. What he's doing at Vanderbilt, the brand of basketball they play, the guys that he has buying in. Byington is coach on the rise.
Yeah, that was they've been on a very, very, very impressive run.
Yeah,
Beating VCU by 15, St. Mary's by 25. Nobody beats St. Mary's by 25.
I mean,
That's
absurd.
incredible. And then
Yeah.
just beat SMU by 19, or I'm sorry, by 29. No, 19. I can't do math. Recently. So, uh, yeah, there you go. Count them out. I think the other three are more straightforward here. We can still talk about them. Obviously, I think with the ACC, I'm picking Duke, and I think this is more of a Louisville thing. Duke has been awesome. They're 10-0. They've been, they have wins over Florida, Michigan State, Arkansas, Texas, Kansas. Go down the list. Duke is very, very good. The question becomes like, who's after them, what does it look like? And I think Louisville's good. I'm not sure they have that consistency that I would love from this team. Now I say that Michael Brown I think has gotten better. I think Ryan Conwell's been fantastic, but I still think Duke is a tier above Louisville at this point. So I'm sticking with Duke.
Yeah, so when it comes to the ACC, it's very interesting. Like you mentioned with Louisville, I don't think Michael Brown's been very good consistently yet this season.
Yeah,
We all know he's a good player, and we all know there's still upside there. So I still hang hope on what Louisville could be as Michael kind of continues to get his feet wet, get used to the speed of the game at the college
yeah,
level, and to what it is, because there's a lot of talent there. Isaac McNeely's been good. Ryan Conwell's been good. Can they get enough stops defensively? All those guys that we mentioned, not the best known defensive players out there. So what does the defensive stuff look like as their offense starts to get rolling? I have no doubt in my mind that when it comes to ACC play, Louisville's offense will start to roll. Can they get enough stops? I have that question still. UNC, man, UNC continues to be a team that it's like I don't want to jump all in. I don't want to go all in, but they've looked so good and they've had some really impressive wins. They've had some really impressive showing. Caleb Wilson is, I mean, we'll talk about this later. He's not in
yeah,
the National Player of the Year yet for me, but he's in the top 5
yep,
with what he's been able to do. Henry Vassar is the best big in the league. You have the guards and wings that are figuring things out with what they're doing. They're playing tough and physical. They're rebounding the basketball. This UNC team so far through these first 10 games has looked possibly like the second best team in the ACC right now. Can they sustain that? What does that continue to look like throughout the season? Obviously, Duke and Chapel Hill will play one another. You have Virginia talked about, not quite ready to jump in on them yet either. So I think Duke is clearly easily the number 1 team in the ACC right now. But I think the jockeying for number 2 between those 3 teams, Virginia, UNC, and Louisville, could be somewhat interesting.
In the Big Ten, we talked about Michigan already. Michigan's my pick. I think the battle for 2 is very interesting here because I'm very bullish on Illinois. And I went into the year high on Michigan State already. So like I think Illinois, watching them, I watched that whole Tennessee game, and Tennessee's not a perfect team, but I thought Illinois really, really controlled that with their physicality. Like to watch them push around Tennessee at times, I thought was really impressive. So Michigan's my number 1 here. I think the more interesting debate is 2, and I know Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State. That's kind of my second group there. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, Michigan for sure. I mean, they were my preseason team. This is my team now. But listen to this league. UCLA's been ranked this year. Michigan State's
Yeah,
been ranked this year. Purdue's been ranked this year. Illinois has been ranked this year. Wisconsin's been ranked this year. USC's been ranked this year. Iowa's been ranked this year. Indiana's been ranked this year. Ohio State's been ranked this year. Nebraska's been ranked this year. 10 teams. 10 teams. The Big Ten is going to be ridiculous, and it's going to be interesting to see, for those teams at the top as to the losses that they take, because you're playing a good team every night, and the schedule is going to come down to it. Do you get these teams at home, or do you get these teams away on the road? What does that continue to look like? And then that's not even to mention you have like Hans Steinbeck at Washington, who's good enough to
Yeah.
them to beat a team on any given night. Northwestern, super tricky team because they have talent. Penn State, the freshman class that Penn State has is the two guards is interesting. So the
You know
Big
what's
Ten, right?
crazy is Oregon. Oregon, we're
In
very
Oregon,
high on going into the year. Has lost 5 in a row. To be fair, none of them have been by more than 17. All but one have been less by 10 or less. Like played USC to 5 point game. Like they've
I
been
mean,
competitive.
Nate Biddle, Jackson Shellstead,
Yeah,
Kwame Evans. I mean,
yeah.
they have familiarity, they have experience, and they have talent. I mean, this Big Ten is wild right now, and I think any number of teams can fall in that second place. Right now, I have Michigan. I think Michigan's been the most impressive team in college basketball. I just don't see a way that they whatever lose or stuff. But what Tom Izzo's done so far this year has been astronomical with that roster they have. When you line up that Michigan State roster man to man with those teams that they've beaten, I don't know if they have a single position, let alone the entire team. When you go point guard versus point guard, shooting guard versus shooting guard, small forward, small forward. But God, what Tom Izzo's done, the positions that he's put that Michigan State in this year, the offensive stuff, the scouting that they've done on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, it's like Bruce Pearl last year did a masterful performance with that Auburn team. I think Tom Izzo's doing that this year with Michigan State, which puts them in the mix, for anything that could happen. What Ben McCollum's doing with this Iowa team.
Yeah.
You obviously have what Matt Painter's doing, Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn, Oscar Clough finding his role, Fletcher Lawyer. Illinois, as you mentioned, I mean, this Big Ten is just man. Bring your popcorn, tune in, watch, and see what happens, because it's a heck of a league right now.
Moving on to the last of the five high major conferences here, the Big East. This one's pretty straightforward. UConn is number one, and it's also like it's clearly a tier of UConn, clearly a tier of St. John's, and then I think you get into everybody else here. UConn, I think, has separated itself from St. John's, and St. John's, I don't want to use the word disappointing to this point, but they definitely haven't been as imposing as I was hoping going into the year. They still have some quality wins over Baylor and Ole Miss, but against Auburn, I thought that loss against Auburn was really strange, I guess is a word, where you go into it, and I'm still like, if they played again, I would pick St. John's, but Auburn was able to get loose. I think Pettiford had a good game. Pettiford had an awesome game, 27 points. He finally got going there. But yeah, a 1 point loss to Iowa State's not bad. A 7 point loss to Bama is not bad. It's the Auburn loss that was a little perplexing to me. So St. John's definitely could make a run at it. It wouldn't shock me, but Connecticut is clearly better.
Yeah. UConn's the class of this league right now, and I don't know that necessarily any of them are in the conversation with them right now.
Yeah. All right, player of the year. Let's wrap it up. Do you have a clear number one? I think that's the first question here. Where do you go?
I do not have a clear number. I think this is a two-person race
Okay.
right now. Yaxel Lindenberg and Cam Boozer are the two.
Okay.
I think Yaxel's been the best player on the best team, leading Michigan scoring and steals, second in rebounds and assists. He's playing effectively. He's playing efficiently. What we're seeing with this is when Yaxel plays well, the team plays well. Kind of the big X factor as to what he brings as an offensive hub to this Michigan team. So the best player on the best team, Yaxel Lindenberg, and then you have Cam Boozer, who just goes out and produces. I mean, a lot of the time might not be the sexiest. A lot of the time might not be, the easiest, most aesthetic looking points that he's getting, but 22 points, 9.9 rebounds per game. He's leading the country in player efficiency, win shares, box plus minus. The production's there. The analytics are there. Duke 10-0 right now with some huge
Yeah.
wins. So I think it's those two guys right now are the only two in the conversation for it. Yaxel for me would probably be the pick, but man, I might take a nap and wake up and think it's Cam. So those two right now have cleared themselves, but I think it's the 2-person race as we stand right now.
Yeah, Boozer's big thing. He continues to raise the efficiency. He's up to 56% from the field. He's up to 37% from three. If he's shooting the three ball like that, he's impossible to cover really from the three levels. I agree. I like those two picks. I'm throwing in Joshua Jefferson. I'm throwing in Josh Jefferson here from Iowa State.
It's been awesome.
18, 7, and 5 assists. Like the assist is really, and you mentioned Lipsy missing some games there. They continue just to feature Jefferson as a focal point of their offense, and the assist rate is double what it was like last year. I think you look at what he can do with the ball in his hands in terms of creating. It takes so much pressure off of Lipsy and these other guards, and we talked about how are they going to replace Gilbert? How are they going to get the production from the guard spots? Turns out you just give the ball to Jefferson and he's able to make things happen. So we know he's impactful on the defense side of the ball as well, like shooting 56% from the field, 45% from three. Jefferson would be my throw his hat into the ring there. I have a couple other names, but he's the one that I don't know if you have anything on him before we move on.
Yeah, no, I think he's been fantastic. I think he's been the central piece as to what this Iowa State team is, most impressive team out there. One of the most impressive college teams out there, and he's been the central figure of that. I think for Yaxel and Cam being the top tier, I think Caleb Wilson along with Jefferson are the second tier of guys for me. And I think that those are two tiers of two people that are by themselves, and then I think it's everybody else. With the JT Toppins and the Braden Smiths and all those guys.
Two more names I'll throw out there. I don't know how we want to put them in a list or whatever, or just give them honorable mention shout-outs to this point. You mentioned him earlier, LeBaron Philon, best player in the SEC right now, 21-5, 56% from the field, 40% from three. If Bama wins the SEC, and if Bama gets, I don't know, a 2 seed or better, Philon's a first-team All-American.
You talked me into it. Yeah,
he's
put him in that tier with Jefferson and
he's in that
Jefferson and Wilson.
He's in that next one.
Tier 2. I agree with you.
And then I might have recency,
and he's just keeping getting better too. Is the thing with Philon is like he started off the year well, and man, he's just getting better and better and better. He's been unreal these last couple games.
Absolutely, the best decision for him. Whoever told him to go back to college for another year and not be a 38th pick or something like that in the draft, dude. Oh my gosh. And then the last one, you talked about him. It's probably recency bias on my end just because last night he was fantastic. AJ DeBonsta will be somewhere in that conversation of top 5 to 10 range right now. He's obviously just incredibly talented. And for them to go into half last night down 20 and to get punched in the face like that against Clemson, who's a good team. Like Clemson is obviously a very well-coached team. We know what Clemson is every year. And to come out and it wasn't all him, but they, for a large part of that, got on his back. And he ends up, I think, with 28 points, and he was fantastic. AJ's in, if I'm doing a top 6, 7, 8, 9, he's in that group.
Well, it's been what he did last night was astronomical. I mean, you come out in the second half, they just fed him the ball, Clemson trying to guard him one-on-one, and he just exploited it. Then they adjusted, and he just started spraying passes, just finding his teammates with some unbelievable passing reads and finds and execution. Is just that was a masterclass. No notes, one of the best performances we've seen, possibly the best performance we've seen this year in college basketball. The second half of what he did last night, it was just a masterful, unbelievable, dominating performance that they did their best. Game that we saw it earlier from him this year. The same thing he did, the same thing against UConn.
Yeah.
When the lights are the brightest, man, that guy does things that nobody else in college basketball can do.
Yeah, this freshman class, man, awesome. We continue to talk about them. They're only getting better. We'll see how it plays out. But all right, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. We'll be back next week with some more takeaways, more games to talk about, and everything like that as we continue to get closer to conference play. So thank y'all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.